Thank you to the worship team. Hey, let's give it up. Worship, AV, our band. How many of y'all were at worship Sunday last week? Did they not bless our socks off? That's a sermon. That was worship. That was a sermon. And so we're so richly blessed by this amazing group of men and women who worship so well at the well. I got to brag a little bit because a couple weeks ago, I hit a milestone. I celebrated 15 years of marriage to this woman right here, this angel right here. But I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to take 15 seconds to tell you what took me 15 years to learn about marriage, right? And I know y'all, some people was Althea and Jerry, y'all been married since Moses. I get it, okay? Francine, I get it, okay? You and Freddie, who else? Are the Manleys in here? I mean, I get it. You've been married a long time, okay? So let me just say, in 15 years, I've learned one very important thing, all right? I have learned that as much as I love that woman right there with all my heart, she is not my soulmate. Ooh, I know, as much as she loves me, she is not my soulmate. See, she has a lover of her soul. She has a giver of her life. And it took me 15 years to understand that, man, I'm not her soulmate. I'm her helpmate. That I'm here to help her. I'm here to walk with her. That our imperfect marriage is actually just a glimpse of the perfect love that God has for us. And so it took me a little while to learn that. And so if you're single, right, or you got kids, okay, when that ashy little boy comes up to your front door asking about your daughter, right? You tell her, hey, I got a soulmate, but you can buy me dinner, all right? Fellas, hey, when that girl starts dropping in them DMs and the text messages, hey, you could be my, no, I got a soulmate, but we can go see a movie, right? Love. What is it about love that is so mysterious but also so powerful? We are in this new sermon series called Love Well. And it's actually a sermon series we did last year. Love well. How do you love people well when they're different? How do you love people well when they're difficult? How do you love people well when you disagree? Agree? I've heard someone say, hey, all marriages end for the same reason. We all have irreconcilable differences. I mean, that's called being human. We all have irreconcilable differences. But what does love look like? So last year, we had a whole series where we said, well, how do we love people who are different, who we might view as difficult? Because our differences don't make us deficient. I'm different from you doesn't make me less than you, right? And so we recapped. We talked to Dr. Shiza. She is of the Islamic faith. She's a Muslim who's a friend of this, who has been to this church. She prays. She believes differently. But how do I love her? We talked to Lord Alfred Brown, my brother-in-law. He would say, I am spiritual but not religious. Jesus was a good person, but I don't believe him for my salvation. So how do I love my brother-in-law well? We talked to Mimi. Mimi is a member of our church. She has been married to her wife for several years. She works at TSA. Some of you might have passed through her line at DFW Airport. She's probably watching later on today. How do we love Mimi well? Trey preached on the difference between a posture and a position, right? So we have a biblical position, but what is the posture of our heart? And we heard from our very own Wes Allan. Y'all know Wes, Big Wes. Don't mess with Wes, just for the record. He got that big old smile, but nah, man. Wes was a bad man, and Wes battled alcohol and drug addiction. How do we love people well? It's hard to love well. But see, last year we focused on how to love well. This year, I want to start by answering the question, well, what is love? What does love look like? What does love sound like? How does God love? How does God even do love? How do we love well in a world where love seems to be kind of disposable? See, we all have our own realities. So we all have different versions of love, but, well, if God is love, then doesn't there have to be a true love? What do you see when you think about love? What do you see when you look at one another? I want you to look at a picture on the screen. These are two young ladies. Actually, if you were around in DFW around 2000, let's call it 9, you might have run into these two young women. See, on the left is Sharanda Jones. On the right is Brittany Barnett. See, Sharanda grew up around Dallas. Brittany also grew up around Dallas. See, Sharanda was one of 5 kids, and Brittany was one of 2 kids. Sharanda grew up in Terrell, Texas, East Texas. Anybody from Terrell, Texas, East Texas? Y'all ain't claiming it no more? Y'all gonna say Dallas? You ain't from Dallas. You from Terrell, Sulphur Springs, right? East Texas. But Brittany also grew up in East Texas, in Commerce, Texas. See, after high school, you might have seen Sharanda walking around downtown Dallas because she actually co-owned a restaurant, and she had a hair salon. After high school, you would have seen Brittany walking around the campus of UTA, University of Texas at Arlington. See, Sharanda actually grew up thinking about ways to help her mom. Her mom actually suffered a tragic car accident when Sharanda was only 3 years old. So she grew up with a quadriplegic mom, having to care for her. And her mom battled drug addiction and abuse. But instead of rehabilitation, she got incarceration. And so Sharanda grew up thinking about ways to help her mom. But Brittany also grew up thinking about ways to help her mother. When she was 22 years old, just graduating from college, her mother was sentenced to 8 years in prison. She was a nurse, but she couldn't shake crack cocaine. And so she also grew up thinking about ways to help her mom. But if you had ran into Sharanda or Brittany in 2009, what would you have seen them? Would you have loved them? Would they have been difficult to you or different from you? If you had run into Brittany, you would have known her as a second-year law student, SMU Law School. If you had run into Sharanda in 2009, you might have just called her prisoner 33177 at Carswell Detention Center. You see, Sharanda did the crime, so she should do the time, right? Sharanda was sentenced to 47 years in federal prison. Mandatory minimum sentence, 47 years, first offense, nonviolent offender, sold crack cocaine. She was a mule, so she didn't even sell. She was the trafficker between Dallas and Houston, and when things got tight and to take care of her daughter who was 8 years old and to help her mom who had been quadriplegic since she was 3, she said, I made a bad decision. I can get $1,000 a pop running drugs from Dallas to Houston. So she got 47 years in prison for her first offense, nonviolent offense. See, she was sentenced under the draconian war on drug laws, the Ronald Reagan era policies that the war on drugs was really a war on drug addicts. And it just so happened that if you were caught with crack cocaine, your sentence was 100 times harsher than someone with powdered cocaine. And it just so happens that the most population that had crack cocaine were black and brown Americans. And so she was sentenced to 100 times harsher sentence than someone else of her same substance and crime. She got more time than the drug dealers. She got more time than the drug kingpin. She got more time than the Unabomber. 47 years. And she says this, I want to read her words. She says, I take full responsibility for my actions, and I know that I deserve to be punished. But for the rest of my life, for my first ever arrest and conviction, she was never found with drugs, but through the witness of other people, she was sentenced. My deepest sorrow, though, is being separated from my own child, Clenisha. So what happened? Brittany went looking for Sharanda. See, Brittany, because she grew up with visiting a mom who had drug issues. She grew up actually visiting prison. She was in SMU Law School, and she decided, I'm going to go looking for people like that. So she just Googled people with unfair drug sentences and came across the story of Sharanda and sent her a note. I don't even have a law degree yet, but I'd like to help you. I'd like to be a friend to you. I'd like to be a sister to you. And they started a friendship. And so Sharanda, multiple years, would lean on Brittany. She would visit her, and Brittany would visit. And so Brittany got that law degree from SMU. Brittany graduated. She started to file the petitions. And guess what? The drug laws got overturned in 2010. We changed our abusive policies. But the laws weren't retroactive. So Sharanda was still in jail. Her only hope was clemency from President Barack Obama. And in 2013, Brittany files for clemency because the president has the power of pardon. The president has the power to make it all go away, to exchange her time. In 2013, Sharanda was not on the list. So despite Brittany's best efforts, Sharanda was still in prison. So how do we love people well who have done wrong, who acknowledge I've done wrong? I've sinned. I've fallen short of the glory of God. But do I deserve 47 years in prison? How do we love people well when they're different from us? How do we love people well that are difficult for us? See, this is not one problem. This is several. See, we have a prison problem. The U.S. is 4% of the world population and 25% of the world's prisoners. 4% of the world's population, but 1 in 4 prisoners in the entire world are in the United States. We have a prison problem. We have a justice problem. 44% of people currently in state or federal prison, 44% have mental health issues. 60% are addicted to some type of substance. And so justice without love is injustice. We have an unjust system. So we have a prison problem. We have a policy problem. We all have a sin problem. But God has a solution. And so this Love Well series, we're going to dig into some hard topics because these are hard times. Anybody feel like this is a hard time? This isn't in my sermon, but I just want to say this, that the world that you see through that 4.5-inch piece of computer in your pocket is not the real world. So part of our problem is we've got to get into the real world, meet real people. See, we got to see people well to love them well. If I don't see you, I can't love you. If I don't see you, I don't know you. We don't have just a love problem. We have a vision problem. How do we love others well that are difficult, that are different? And how does God see you? So today I just want to answer those 3 questions. How does God see you? How does God see me? Number 2, how do I see God? Very important. And number 3, what does love look like? How does God see you? How do you see God? And what does love look like? What does good love look like? And for that, my friends, as we often do, we will open the Holy Bible, the Word of God. Turn with me to Matthew, the 25th chapter. Matthew 25. So I'll be in the CSB, the Christian Standard Bible. We have actually some in the back as well. So I'll be in the CSB version for most of this lesson. Matthew 25. What does love look like? So we have God's love, we have our love, and then we have good love. But what does real love look like? Matthew 25, we get into one of his final sermons. They call it his farewell discourse. This is one of the last sermons he would preach before he was crucified. All right, I'm going to start at verse 31. I'm just going to read the whole thing in 31 through 46. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, just as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. And the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer, huh? Where we see you? Where you been at? Then the righteous will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or without clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? I don't remember seeing you, King, Lord, Shepherd, Jesus. And the king will answer, truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Then he will also say to those on the left, y'all picked the wrong Sunday to be on the left. It's not, you want to switch? You want to, Graham, you could just roll over there. And he will say to those on the left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you didn't take me in. I was naked, and you didn't clothe me. I was sick and in prison. You didn't take care of me. Then they too will answer, what? We didn't see you. He's like, I know you didn't see me. Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or without clothes or sick or in prison, not help you? When did we not help you? Then he will answer them, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. And they will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous unto eternal life. And so you see this in this, the 25th chapter of Matthew, and 24 and 25 are great sermon. I encourage you to go back and read those. See, in 24, right, Jesus is leaving the temple, and all his disciples are marveling at how beautiful the temple is. Like, oh, this is great. And he said, well, do you see this? Do you see it? Do you see it for real? Saying, this won't be here in a while. It's real, but it's not true. Right? And so then he goes up into the Mount of Olives. So he's saying these words. Go with me to where Jesus is. He's sitting at the highest point in the city, on the Mount of Olives, looking at what is about to be the lowest point of his life. Days later, he would be crucified, tortured, murdered, hung on a cross. But he's sitting with the people he loves the most. These are his friends. These are his boys. These are his disciples. This is his crew. This is his family. And he's looking out all over the city, and he's teaching them about love. He's teaching them about what it's going to cost. And so he's looking and saying, hey, this is what's happening. And so a lot of this, 24 and 25, are this end times, the end of the age. So this is a prophecy. He's telling them not what I think is going to happen. He's telling them what is going to happen. And he knows that they are all going to desert him and leave him and betray him, and they're all going to scatter. But I want you to know what love is. And so how does God see me? He sees us like a shepherd sees his sheep. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. You see, it wouldn't have been uncommon at that time for a shepherd would have sheep and goats together during the day. That's normal. They would feed and pasture and, drink water together. But at night, he would separate the sheep and the goats. You see, the sheep were different. They're similar species, but they're not the same. And so the sheep, right, we think of sheep as what? Sheep are dumb. Aren't sheep dumb? Like, Jesus, I want you to see me as a lion, courageous. I want you to see me as an eagle, majestic. Y'all like that? Yeah. I want to be what, a horse. I want to be fast. I want to be a ox, strong. And we live as if we want God to see how strong and majestic and fast and powerful we are. But he says, no. Be the sheep. Because a sheep is not dumb. A sheep is dependent. You see, all the power, all the strength, all the speed that a sheep can have is only from his shepherd. And so he says, live dependent. See, sheep are what you would call herd animals or they're flock animals. They naturally come together. Their natural state is together. If you scattered sheep, they would all come back together. So he's saying, stay together, stay in unison. Sheep are also prey animals, meaning they are lunch. They don't have a way to defend themselves, and so they flee, they run. Goats fight. So some of y'all are goats on this side. Y'all fight, right? We got some goats on this side. Y'all like knuck if you buck, right? He's saying, no, don't. He's saying, I will fight for you. So goats are individualistic. Goats are independent. Goats don't like fences. They don't like rules. Goats see the herd as hierarchy. So they're trying to move up the hierarchy. Sheep, though, are communal. Sheep can see far. A sheep right here could see a mile down the road, but it couldn't see right in front of its face. And so they need the shepherd to guide them. Sheep are dependent. They're not dumb. They are dependent. And so God sees us as a shepherd sees his sheep. What does he do for his sheep? He blesses them, but he says what? What did you do for these of mine? He sees sheep as his possession. He loves them as his family. And here's the first thing. How does God see us? Number one, God sees you as a person to love, not a problem to fix. You're a person to love, not a problem to solve. You're a person to love, not an issue to debate. You're a person to love, not a topic to tweet about. You are a person to love. You are worthy of love. Brittany saw Sharanda as a person worthy of love, not a problem to fix. She was a child of God in need of mercy, not a criminal in need of a maximum sentence. She was a sister, not a statistic. So how does God see us? He sees us as people to love, his people to love, who are worthy of love, made in his image, meaning he imagined us. We are worthy of his time. There's nothing that you can be on your mind or heart that he doesn't care about. But oftentimes we want to be the GOAT, greatest of all time. We raise our kids to be what? The greatest, the GOAT. But yet he says, be my sheep. Follow me. I will lead you by the still waters. I will give you rest. How does God see me? He sees me as a shepherd sees his sheep. I'm a problem. No, I'm a person. Your spouse, nudge your husband or wife, tell him, you are not a problem. You are a person, okay? Tim and Autumn, do it, yeah, right now. Just tell him, lean over, whisper it in his ear. We'll wait. Say, hey, you are not my problem. You're my person, but not my soulmate, though. That spot's taken, okay? So number two, how do I see God? So God sees me as a person to love. God sees me as a shepherd sees his sheep. Well, how do I see God? How do you see God? How do the sheep see the shepherd? I love when they ask this. They said, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? In verse 37, when did we see you a stranger and take you in, or without clothes and clothe you? When did we see you? When did we see you? God is invisible. Have you ever seen God? Trey, I know you've been preaching for a long time. Have you and God had like a little one-on-one? Y'all had a Zoom call, something? Because I mean, have you seen God? You see, so go back and read this week. Read verse 24, because he goes in 24, 25, all those previous four parables. We often quote and teach the parables as individual units. Like a parable is an earthly story with a heavenly meaning, or it's a story that Jesus made up to make a point. So he makes up a story to tell the truth, right? And so there's stories about the 10 virgins, the 10 bridesmaids who 5 of them fell asleep, and 5 of them five fell asleep but didn't have enough oil. Other 5 fell asleep and had oil. They weren't ready. He tells the story about the talents. We love that. Some of y'all entrepreneurs, you love the story about the talents. Multiply the talents. Be fruitful and make money, right? I mean, they don't say that, but that's how I've heard it taught that way so many times, right? Each of these it's about a servant who's working for a master. It's about maybe a bride waiting on a groom. It's the sheep under the shepherd. You see the point? Each of these parables taken together is all about a master, a king, a higher power, a manager who's away, and he comes back to say, oh, what did you do with what I gave you? Oh, I gave you all that. What did you do with what I gave you? What did you do? I gave you all that time, talent, energy, effort, money, wisdom. I gave you that voice. What did you do? Tell me. What did you do? Huh? And you're like, I maxed out my 401k, and I took my kids to Disney 10 times. So, I mean, they really love Disney. So, but what did you do with what I gave you? There are 100,000 people in Tarrant County whose SNAP benefits have just run out. What did you do with what I gave you? There are 2,637 houseless brothers and sisters right now in our city. What did you do? Tell me. What did you do for them? What did you do? There are 14,000 people in jail or prison in our city right now. Who'd you visit? Tell me. What did you do with what I gave you? I know you're ready for me because you read my word. So tell me. I can't wait to hear. Tell me what you did. What did you do? What did you do with what I loaned to you? What did you do with that blessing you borrowed from me? And so all these parables, when the master, the king, the shepherd, the judge, because he is all the above, when he comes back, hey, you got to give an account for what did you do with the love I gave. I taught you how to love, so how'd you love someone else? Isn't it strange that they ask a question about vision? When did we see you? They ask a vision question. He gives an action answer. They said, when did we see you? And he talks about work, practice. We talking about practice? Like, I asked you about seeing you, Jesus, and you asking me when did I give somebody water or bread, right? What does that have to do with anything, Jesus? Well, the scriptures are very clear. In fact, it's almost hard not to see it. 1 John 3:16, you don't have to go there, I'll read it. 1 John 3:16 through 18. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. We ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone, if the rich people, no. If the poor, no. If Republicans have, no. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us love with words or speech. Not with words or speech, but with action and truth. What did you do? What did you do? Well, I sent a praying hands emoji. Like, thoughts and prayers. Let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. They will know us by our hashtag. They will know us by our fruits, by our actions, by our truth. 1 John 4:20. If anyone says, I love God, and yet hates his brother or sister, he is a liar. For the person who does not love his brother or sister whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. You can't say you love me if you don't love my people. There's a lot of people saying they love God who are being very unkind. There are a lot of people saying they love God while hating his people. One more. I'm making a point. Hebrews 13:1-3. Hebrews 13:1-3. Keep on loving each other as brothers and sisters. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it. I believe you can read that literally. I think it's figured. I believe we have interacted with divine souls, divine creations. Actually, you are a divine soul, a divine creation. Every time I offer you hospitality, I am offering it to God. Remember, those in prison As you were there yourself, remember also those being mistreated as if you felt their pain in your own bodies. Remember those in prison as if you were there yourself. How do I see God? Number two, how do I see God? Here's the answer. I see God most in how I serve the least. I see God most in how I serve the least, the sheep. And let me be clear here because it's hard, because you can see, oh, well, I've got to be a good sheep. I got to be a better sheep. And you're taking notes and you're going to go try to, it's not a 12-point plan. See, the sheep are not blessed for being good sheep. This is not a sheep improvement plan. In fact, the sheep didn't even know who he was. It's not like they're compassionate, but they're also clueless, right? That's us. He's saying, you're not blessed for being a good sheep. The sheep are blessed because they depend on a good shepherd. There's only one good shepherd. We are not rewarded for living like Christians. We are blessed because Christ lives in us. Let me say that again. We are not rewarded for living like Christians. We are blessed because Christ is alive in us. So yes, faith without works is dead. I cannot earn salvation, but my works are the evidence of the grace that's at work in me. So I work out of this place. See, grace fills the space between my worst and God's best. There's no distance that he can't go, but in my own, I can't do anything. So I either stand before him as my own, right, on my own, be judged for what I did, or Jesus stands in my place. But you get a choice. And so I have so many coworkers, and we have these kind of debates and even friends and family. Like, I can't conceive of a God who would judge people. Like, he loves me too much. I can't conceive of a God who would. And it's like, well, God loves you enough to give you a choice. That's what he's saying. He's saying there will be a division. The shepherd king is also a judge. The shepherd king protects. The shepherd king corrects. It is both. Love is both. Grace is both. There's accountability and action. It is both. And so how do I see God? I see God most in how I serve the least. So number 3, what does good love look like? What does love look like? What does love look like? Andre, what does love look like? How long you been married? How long? You don't know? Woo. You gotta have a bigger problem, my friend. You gotta have that just tattooed, and every year you just update it. What does real love look like? All y'all married folks in here, all these therapists in here, all y'all educated folks, all these degrees in here, y'all can't tell me what love looks like? What does love look like? Well, let me start by telling you what love doesn't look like. All right, come on, let's go. Love does not look like the goat. How many of us want to be the goat? I want to be the greatest of all time. Greatest of all time. And yet, it's his greatness that he's pointing to. You see, in the parables, right? So this Matthew 25 that I'm reading, it's the finale. So it's the last chapter in the book. It's the last track on the album. It's the last scene in the movie. He's wrapping it all up. So it's moving towards this. So don't forget, Jesus is standing on the Mount of Olives, highest point in the city, looking over all Jerusalem. He's looking at the temple and the gold embellishment and the columns of marble. He's seeing the Roman Empire over here, and he's seeing their might and their military strength. He's seeing people being oppressed. He's probably seeing sheep and goats probably in the pasture. So he's seeing all of this, and they're watching all of this. This is a classroom, y'all. And class is in session. He's looking at all this, and he's talking about love, even though he doesn't even say the name love. And what is the common thread? You see, you read those parables, and even this one, God was not rejecting the goats. Jesus was not rejecting the goats. He was revealing their heart. See, he did not decide their fate. He just divided them based on the fate they chose for themselves. He was not rejecting them. He was just revealing what they had already chose to do. You see, they didn't know their master. And so if you read the parable of talents, right, or the 10 virgins, it's funny because at the very end, let me read this in Matthew 25:12. This is the end. So 5 virgins are going in with the groom because they had oil in their lamp. Other 5 got left out. They're knocking on the door. Let me in. You're my soulmate. Let me in. And he's like, I don't know you. Who are you? Go away. Or in the words of the apostle from ATL, Clifford Harris Jr., better known as T.I., you don't know me. You might have seen me in the street, but you don't know me. You holler when we speak, but you don't know me. Like, I don't know. You don't say, like, you don't know me. I don't know you. So each of these parables, in the parable of the talents, right? Like, oh, I know you're a harsh master. No, you don't know your master. The master comes back to his estate. Oh, tell me what you did. You don't know him. So the goats don't know the shepherd. John 10:14, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Jesus is not rejecting them. He's revealing what they've already decided in their hearts. And so in the parable of the Good Samaritan, you also know, there's the priest and the Levite pass by, right? So in the Gospel of Luke, he tells the story, right? The priest and Levi, they have dedicated their lives to loving God, to learning his will, his rules, the Torah. They knew all the sacraments and the rituals. And they pass by and see their brother on the side of the road, beaten, hurt, injured, needing help. And they pass by on the other side. So they saw him, but they didn't see him. They saw him, but they didn't love him. And along comes the Samaritan, who does what? He helps him. Did the Samaritan hurt him? No, but he helped him. So the mercy you omit is a sin. When you don't do good, you sin. Sin of omission. When I know good and don't do it, that's a sin. When I see you and don't help, that's a sin. And so what he's saying is, you pass by on the other side, so you can't be my sheep. Because my sheep know me, and my sheep know how I do. So what does love look like? Love looks like me. James 4:17, remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and not to do it. James 4:17, it is sin to know what you need to do and not do it. So you can debate all day about the politics of it, but it is a sin to see someone hurting and suffering and to not do anything. It is a sin to separate innocent children from their mothers at a border and call it democracy. That is a sin. It is a sin to oppress others. It is a sin. It is a sin to hurt and intentionally use people's collateral damage in our own wars for our own profit. It is a sin. It is a sin to treat people like they don't matter. We treat them as disposable. It is a sin. We sin. I sin. When I treat you as if I don't see you, I sin. That is not love. And so what does love look like? Love looks like action, not avoidance. Number 3, love looks like action, not avoidance. They will know us by our love. They will know us by our verbs, not our adjectives. You can call yourself a black church or a white church, a conservative church or a progressive church. You can be a mega church or a micro church. You can be a house church. You could be any kind of church, but that adjective matters less than the action. Love looks like action, not avoidance. Jesus is saying this: I identify with the weak, the helpless, the outcast, the hungry, the thirsty, the lonely, the forgotten. Those are my people. The way we treat them is the way we treat him. And for far so long, I have done wrong. And so loving others well starts with seeing them as people. If you love me, feed my sheep, Peter. If you love me, feed my sheep, Peter. Peter, when he's being restored, one of my favorite stories in the gospel, he's like, Peter, do you love me? He's like, yeah, I love you, Jesus. I love you. Feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Oh, you know I love you, Jesus. Stop playing. Feed my sheep. Peter, do you really love me? Oh, Jesus, come on now. You know I love you. Feed my sheep. Love one another. Any good the sheep do is only because of the good shepherd. I'm going to have the worship team come forward as we close. See, good works or compassionate actions are not the source of our salvation. They are the evidence of it. And so if you walk away from this message thinking, I got a to-do list to be a better sheep, I have led you astray. I have messed up. But if you walk away saying, you know what? God's been good to me. I admit my guilt and I accept my grace. I'm so lost, but I'm so loved. And I remember what he's done for me, and I know I can do that for someone else. He says in verse 40, and the king will answer, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least. He said one of the least. Whatever you did for one of the least, you did for me. So in 2015, Trey, I'm going to put that picture back up of Sharanda and Brittany. Both daughters of the rural South. They both grew up in hard stuff, hard lessons. But Brittany saw Sharanda as a person to love, not a problem to fix. Brittany saw Sharanda as a child of God in need of mercy, not a convict in need of a maximum sentence. Brittany saw Sharanda as a sister, not a statistic. So in 2015, because Brittany kept going, it took her 7 years. Sharanda was granted clemency by President Barack Obama. Yeah. And she's right here in Dallas. She has a food truck called Fed Up Food Truck. And so the meals she was making before her restaurant and the meals she kept making in prison, she found all these ways to she used corn flakes to make turkey. I mean, it's crazy. There's some crazy recipes you can make in prison. Some of y'all know, right? Actually, hey, kind of an aside, do you know 1 in 3 adults have been arrested or had an experience with the criminal justice system? 1 in 3. 1 in 3 working age adults, right? So some of y'all know, or we know people. I have family members that have spent time in prison. But she's doing what she was born to do. She did it before prison. She did it in prison. And she's doing it now outside of prison. Every day she read her blue Bible, and her favorite verse was the Lord's Prayer. And I imagine Sharanda for 17 years, y'all, reading, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Forgive us our sins and we forgive those who have sinned against us. See, we all want to be the GOAT, but great love has a great cost. And so this time I want to enter a time of, often we have kind of an individual reflection, which is not bad, but I want us to have a time of collective response. Communion. You see, read this again, but think about Jesus. He's describing his own fate. For I was hungry and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger and you didn't take me in. I was naked and you didn't clothe me. I was sick and in prison and you didn't take care of me. Days later, he was in prison, wrongfully convicted and tried. They took his clothes and they tore his garments. He asked for water, they gave him sour wine. They withheld justice from him. They beat him, they tortured him. He's describing the very compassion that would be withheld from himself, but he's telling you to do it for someone else. Great love comes at a great cost, and he bore the cost. You see, I am so lost. I'm so lost that a king had to come down from heaven become a kid and live and then die on a cross for me. But I'm so loved that he would pay the cost. I'm so lost that a shepherd had to leave the 99 good sheep and go find the one that got away. But I'm so loved that he would pay that cost. I'm so lost. The woman at the well, Jacob's well, was so lost. She was an outcast from her society. But she so loved that the Messiah came to announce that he was there through her testimony. Nicodemus, a ruler, a religious man, was so lost. He couldn't recognize the Messiah, but he so loved that the Messiah would meet him at night to share the gospel. You are so lost that you deserve to die. You are so loved that he died in your place. And that place where love meets loss is called the cross. The cross is where our great love, his great love, meets our great loss. But he pays the price. The cross is the intersection, y'all. And it's the only place, it's the best reflection I can see of love. That love has a cost. Great love will cost you. It might cost you time, might cost you inconvenience, but what you get is so much better. Great love has a great cost. And so, as the worship team sings, I don't want us to feel like they are singing for us, because this is all of our story. And so my ask is that as we prepare our hearts for communion, because the only place this could end is at the cross. How does God see me? God sees me as a person to love, his child to love, not a problem to fix. How do I see God? I see God most when I serve the least, the last, and the lost. And what does love look like? Love looks like action. Love looks like a cross. And so I want us to sing these words with the worship team as they sing. And I want us to prepare our hearts to break bread, to drink the wine, the juice that represents the blood. I want us to really take in this communion. Because as Jesus set out looking at the city, he had you on his mind. He had your sin on his mind, but your future on his heart. And so we don't take this casually. We do this because we know that we know what we deserve. We are so lost, but we are so loved. Let us prepare our hearts for communion.